Hello scholars, welcome back to my YouTube channel English Odyssey. My name is Mahi and today we are going to discuss BEGC 109 British Romantic Literature. But before we begin, there's something important I want to share with you. BEGC 109 assignment has total of 10 questions, out of which you have to attempt any 5 questions. I have attempted questions 1 to 5 starting from the first question. So in today's video, I'll explain these questions one by one. And if you need the answer to any other questions number from this assignment that I haven't covered in this video, you can simply DM me on Instagram. I'll provide you with the answer to the question. Okay. Okay, so let's start with our first question. Explain the basic characteristics of British Romantic poetry. So first of all, Romantic poetry emerged towards the end of the 18th century and became prominent in the early 19th century. It was a reaction against the new classical focus on reason, rules and order. Romantic poets gave more importance to nature, imagination, emotions, and individual experience. And among these, one of the most important characteristics is their love of nature. Now moving to the next characteristics, romantic poets gave great importance to imagination, emotions, and feelings. They believed that imagination could transform ordinary experiences into something beautiful and meaningful. At the same time, they focused on human feelings rather than only logic and reason. That is why romantic poetry is often very personal and emotional expressive. Another important characteristic is individualism and subjectivity. Romantic poets often expressed their own thoughts, feelings, and personal experiences through the poetry. They also showed a strong interest in the common man and simple rural life. Wordsworth especially believed that the lives and experiences of ordinary people could become meaningful subjects for poetry. Okay, supernatural elements. Romantic poetry also reflects a strong desire for freedom. Romantic poets valued freedom of thought, expression, and individual action, and many of them were influenced by idea of liberty. Along with this, they were fascinated by the supernatural and mysterious. Coleridge is a great example, especially because of the supernatural elements in the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And finally, Romantic poets had a strong interest in beauty, mythology, legends, and the medieval past. Keats, for example, beautifully explores the idea of beauty through nature and art. So, if we summarize the basic characteristics of British Romantic poetry, we can say that it focuses on nature, imagination, emotions, individual experience, freedom, ordinary life, and the supernatural and beauty. These features clearly distinguish Romantic poetry from the new classical tradition. Okay, now let's move toward our second question. What romantic tendencies in Collins want to appreciation of Coleridge? So in this question, was basically have to understand why Coleridge appreciated the poetry of William Collins. Although Collins belonged to the 18th century, some of his poetry qualities were very similar to the later romantic movement. The major romantic tendencies we can see in Collins are his importance to imagination, emotion, nature, melancholy, supernatural elements, and musical expression. These qualities made his poetry different from the strict new classical tradition and also made him an important poet who helped prepare the way for romantic poetry. This is basically what we need to discuss in this question. Now, before we move further, let me quickly tell you something important about the assignment format. When you prepare your assignment first, you have to add the front page and after that you can start writing your assignment. questions and answers. Make sure your questions and answer are properly arranged according to the required format. After completing your assignment, you also have to submit the assignment according to the submission instruction given in the by IGNOU. So don't forget to check the required submissions process and keep your assignment properly organized before submitting it. And always make sure that you have attempted the required number of questions. And if you have any problem related the assignment, whether it is about a question answer format or submission, you can simply DM me on Instagram or leave your question in the comment section. I'll try my best to help you with it. So now let's continue with our next question. Okay. Hmm. Our third question is the question comment on Blake's portrayal of children and childhood in his songs of innocence and experience. Now, in this question, we basically have to understand how William Blake presents children and childhood through the ideas of innocence and experience. He shows childhood in two different ways. One represents happiness, purity, and freedom, okay, while the other shows suffering, social injustice, and the loss of innocence. So when you write this answer, you should mainly discuss the contrast between innocence and experience. In songs of innocence, children are connected with joy, nature, imagination, and purity. But in songs of experience, Blake shows children suffering because of poverty, exploitation, social restrictions, and injustice. So, through children, Blake also critiques the society and institutions that destroy their natural innocence. Now, one important thing you should remember is that this is a 20-mark question, okay? So you cannot answer such a question in just a few lines. You need to explain the topic properly, give relevant examples from the poems, and discuss Blake's ideas clearly. That's why I have kept each answer around 600 words so that it is detailed enough for a 20-mark answer without becoming unnecessarily lengthy. And because this is a long answer question, try to maintain a proper structure while writing it. Start with the short introduction, then explain Blake's portrayal of children with relevant examples from songs of innocence and experience, and finally give a clear conclusion. This way, your answer will look complete and well organized and appropriate for a 20-mark question. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to our fourth question. The question is critically comment on the preface to a lyrical ballads. Now this is a very important question because preface of lyrical ballads is considered one of the most important statements of romantic literary theory. In this answer, we basically have to discuss Wordsworth's ideas about poetry, the poetic language, emotion, and ordinary life. So while writing this answer, you need to focus on the major ideas given by Wordsworth. For example, his emphasis on ordinary people and everyday life, the use of simple language, the importance of emotion and imagination, and his famous idea of poetry as the expression of powerful feelings. We also need to critically look at these ideas, including some of their limitations. So this is what makes the answer a proper critical comment. Now one very important thing while writing this assignment, wherever you see that I have bolded a word, okay, a phrase or a particular sentence, make sure you highlight that part with a black pen in your assignment. This will make the important points clearly visible and will also make your answer look neat and well presented. And apart from these highlighted portions, you don't have to make unnecessary change. You can simply write this assignment as it is I have prepared the answer carefully, keeping the requirements of the question and the marks in mind. So you don't need to worry unnecessarily about whether you will get good marks or not. Just write it properly and maintain a neat presentation. And one more important thing, if someone tells you that you have to buy an assignment in order to get good marks or even 100% marks, please don't believe that. There is absolutely no need to buy an assignment. You can use the answer I am providing, write them properly in your own assignment, and submit your work. So don't waste your money just because someone tells you that buying an assignment is necessary. Okay, now we have reached our last question, which is discuss the poetic device used in the rhyme of the ancient mariner. Now, in this question, we basically have to discuss the different poetic techniques that Coleridge uses to make the poem so powerful and interesting. Some of the important devices are imagery, symbolism, supernatural elements, repetition, personification, alliteration, metaphor, and rhyme. So, while writing this answer, you should not just mention the names of poetic devices, you also need to explain how Coleridge uses these devices in the poem and what effect they create. For example, the albatross works as an important a symbol, while supernatural elements create a mystery and wonder. Similarly, repetition and rhyme make the poem more musical and memorable. So make sure you explain the device with relevant examples. Okay, now that you have completed your assignment, let me tell you what you will need when you are actually going to submit it. There are basically two important things you need. First, you need the IGNOU assignment front page. You can easily download it from Google. And if you are not able to find it or you are confused about which one to use, you can simply comment below or DM me on Instagram and I'll share it with you. Okay. The second thing you will need is the assignment question paper. You can download it from the official IGNOU website, but remember, you don't need to print the entire assignment booklet. You only need two pages containing the question you have to attempt. So simply take a printout or photocopy of those question pages and add them to your assignment. So finally, your assignment should be arranged in this order. First, the IGNOU assignment front page. Second, the assignment question paper. And third, your handwritten answer. So that's it for today's video. I hope this assignment was helpful for you. If it was, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to English Odyssey for more IGNOU content. And if you have any doubts, you can also drop them in the comments or DM me on Instagram. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring. Bye bye.